Welcome to the show. Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast, episode 29.
29, we almost to the 30s.
Oh my goodness, it's been a journey. I thought this would be a one and done thing after episode 1.
Especially since it was about Black Panther. Like, yikes. What are we doing? Or was it about the Grammys? What's the first episode about?
I think we did both in the same day, but I think we scrapped the Black Panther. I think it's never made it to air, or the Grammys one never made it to air. I can't remember. It was like the Wakanda thing was like real. And we were like, we got to do a podcast.
Wakanda's so cool. Whoa. We gotta go there. We're here now. Look who we have with us.
Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Oh man, we wanted to do an episode about healing.
Yes, our souls.
Yes. So for that episode, I'd like to introduce you all, for those that don't know, to our great friend Asha Dickens.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Asha.
Hey guys. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
I was wondering
when
when you guys were going to invite me.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Oh.
Yeah, we did get it.
Whoops.
Yeah. We did COVID.
Oh, yeah.
COVID. Crazy.
It's okay. COVID is a thing.
It's real out here.
Wakanda forever.
Yeah.
But, after a 15-year career in advertising, Asha decided to leave that world and take the easy route and become an entrepreneur and get rich quick.
I had to laugh at that because I spend many days crying, and in advertising, I only spent half of those days crying. So
it's more.
It's not necessarily right. Exactly.
Well, Asha, how about you tell us a little bit more about yourself and tell us about your business?
Sure. So I won't talk a lot about advertising, but I started my career in 2007 in advertising, and that's where I met Coley. Working in account management. Did that for quite a while, and I'm going to try to be brief. Around 2016, I was experiencing a lot of life challenges, whether it be my own health, my parents' health, just life. Life was lifing. And so I was diagnosed with a condition, a gynecological condition called endometriosis. And as a part of that, my doctor made all these recommendations, and none of them really felt good to me. So I decided to try holistic healing, and basically it was kind of recommended to me. I was looking around, bopping on the internet, and ended up finding healing herbs, and I found a process called Reiki. So I decided to give it a try for myself. Both of those things ended up being amazing for my body. So I decided to take some herbology classes, and I basically began to create formulas for myself because in addition to endometriosis, I had fibroids, I had ovarian cysts, a dermoid cyst, which is basically persistent and constant. So I needed something to be able to heal whatever was happening in my uterus. Created the blends. Friends and family asked me about it. Made them blends, and then eventually I said, you know what, I want to share this with the world. And also Reiki, which is an energetic healing modality. I won't go into detail, but I became a practitioner, and I felt like that was a good way to kind of wrap all of it up. So basically, I own a company called Lotus. It's a holistic healing and self-care company. I sell herbal teas. I practice Reiki. I give sessions. I'm also a teacher. And I became a birth doula during quarantine in 2020. So I'm also a birth doula.
Wow. So even the fact that you said was it herbology? That just seems like wow, doesn't it? And then what made you come up with the name October Lotus?
Random.
So I thought it was your birthday or something.
It actually is. Around that time, I'm big into synchronicity. So if something keeps popping in my head, I always feel like that's for a reason. For whatever reason, I kept seeing my birthday, hearing my birthday. October came up a lot in my life at that point, and I was going through a list of names, just a bunch of names, and I said, October. And I love flowers. I have a million flower tattoos. So I said, what kind of flower? Lotus flower. It's really resilient. It can live in any kind of climate. Every healer on the planet has lotus somewhere in their repertoire. So I was like, October Lotus. And then a friend of ours Aubrey. He's a copywriter. I asked him about a list of names, and I drifted toward October Lotus. He also said, I really like this name. So I was like, well, that's it.
It's a good name, man. There's a great producer named Flying Lotus.
That's really exactly. Exactly.
And there was a song by Wale and Miguel, Lotus Flower Bomb.
Yes.
And Miguel was singing the shit out that.
And that was our when you get the garter song.
Was it?
Yeah.
And you guys were married around that Wale heavy.
Top 5 of all time. Yeah,
he's
Wale.
The best rapper. Where's he
Right
from?
now it's
DC.
DC, Go-Go Music. Yeah.
Big Sean.
Yeah. Big Sean's still good.
Big Sean, yeah. I get in a lot of arguments.
Yeah.
Big Sean.
You do? You're an apologist?
Bars upon bars upon bars.
He really likes Big Sean's.
Okay.
As we all should. I'm not an apologist. I don't apologize for liking bars.
And you shouldn't.
I don't.
You shouldn't.
So Asha, you have a few of your products. So you mind telling us about a few of your products that you have in front of us?
Sure, I will. So I brought a couple. Well, a couple is 2. I brought 4.
Okay.
One is an herbal tea. I can't see what's what. This is called the Amethyst Blend. It is actually not a tea. It's a yoni steam. And so a yoni steam is the process where you use steam, or you use rather herbs boiled in water and allow the steam to permeate your vagina in an effort to
continue.
I know, right? I looked at the wrong person. In an effort to provide your uterus with healing. And so this particular blend is for women who have fibroids. It's one of my more popular ones because so many women, I think probably 90% of the women that I know have fibroids. I brought the drinkable herbal tea formula as well, so you can drink that one. You can steam with this one. And then I brought the Moon Blend, which is an herbal tea, and that is for women who have menstrual cramps, PMS symptoms, or even menopause symptoms. That's actually my second bestseller. And then the last one I brought is one that's very new. I started creating products for not just women, but men also. And so this is the anti-inflammatory tea. So if you have inflammation brought on by injury or illness, it can support you in that. And there's a whole line of about 1 million other products, but these were the 4 I thought, would be nice. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I have a question. It might sound silly, but how do you decipher what's what? Because it looks different, but it looks the same. When you're mixing it together, you know what I mean?
So it's different herbs. So basically, I'll tell a little story. The reason I even decided to take herbology classes is because when I was looking at holistic healing, I kept seeing that women were finding resolution for endometriosis and fibroids and cramps through herbs. I just decided to whip up some herbs I found online, which I don't recommend doing. I don't think that's a good idea. It's not the healthiest or the safest thing.
Which part? Which part is not the healthiest?
Just listening to the internet and saying some random person on the internet said I should use these herbs, so I should do it.
Gotcha.
And that's basically what I did. But I found some relief in those herbs, so I wasn't mad at it. But I started to think, there has to be a science behind how all of this works. Nobody really knows why endometriosis exists, what causes it, but there are a few hypotheses. So it's an immune system disorder. It also has to do with hormonal imbalance. And I basically found herbs if hormonal imbalance is one of the challenges or one of the things that comes from endo, what herbs can I use to resolve hormonal imbalance? What can I use to support immune system function, et cetera, et cetera? And so I figured if I went to herbology school, I might be able to understand how herbs work and how they can target some of those symptoms. So I choose the herbs based on the symptoms of each challenge. They do look a lot alike. Herbs are green.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of differentiation in the way that it looks, but the formulas are very different, and they have different tastes, and they all work in a slightly different way. The most different product is probably the one for inflammation because it also has turmeric, and it's a heavier product because it has heavier herbs. Everything else is a little bit more leafy.
And how long is one in herbology school?
As long as it takes you.
As long as the herbs herb.
You never stop learning.
Never stop
You're
herbing.
constantly. Do you ever really stop? No. My course was online, and so basically you kind of go as long as it takes you.
Okay.
You finish a I don't know what you call it, a chapter or something like that, and then you take your test. You are able to move on to the next level, and so on and so on. But you do it at your own convenience and at your own pace. So.
And would you ever have your own like garden where you like grow your herbs and then dry them and then?
I've done that. I've done that on my balcony before. Would I do it again? Probably. If I'm lazy.
Yeah.
So I usually just dry them, but. It wasn't a hard process at all because I like to grow things anyway. Even before all of this, I'm big on plants and flowers. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
This is so interesting. Sheesh.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
What you're doing is real. It's really needed, and I think why you're the perfect guest for this particular episode. I think. Joy's birth story, our birth story, I think, is a story worth telling. And I think, Asha, just you, kind of in your experience in healing and helping others heal, I think you're the perfect guest to kind of, I don't want to say corroborate, but like kind of like, show, on a broader spectrum how many women are having these types of issues, whether it's childbirth or, the broader spectrum of healthcare. But I think, the story that Joy and I had, with both childbirths, both C-sections, one not planned and one planned, but definitely the first one, just from a guy's perspective, we attend, Joy and I attended every birthing class at our hospital, and never once did they talk about a C-section. So it's like you study for a test and like, boom.
I'm prepared.
Questions 1 through 100 are all about C-section.
Right.
And that's what, became of our life. But Joy, I want to like kind of kick it over to you to talk a little bit more, just kind of about our kind of about the journey and, how we've kind of crossed paths with Asha.
Sure. Well, I reached out to Asha like a lot of times. Well, not a lot, but like a couple of times, like, Asha, please help me because after my pregnancies, that's when I like started the endometriosis, like really started. I don't know if I had it before.
You probably did. You just didn't know.
Yeah, I probably did in hindsight, but it was just like something's off. Like I need help. So I think I purchased a couple, at least maybe 3 of the teas for sure. Mm-hmm. And then like, I mean, basically with Chance, that was just like an emergency. Like, but I feel like a lot of
the C-section was?
Yeah, the C-section, they said he had to be induced. He was like late, but Pitocin is linked to heart rates going down and people having to have C-sections.
What's Pitocin? Can you?
That was the medicine they used to induce.
It was an induction medicine.
Yeah, and we were like we were at an okay hospital. I don't know.
We were at Mercy. And
Mercy was I was nervous about asking.
I was like it was
how'd you end up there?
Yeah, because basically, we were in Buffalo, New York, and like if you're 4 months pregnant, no doctors will like take you.
Moving back.
Yeah, like it was.
I've had clients who had very similar situations.
Yeah, it's like really hard to find a doctor. They won't take you. So I found she was a black OBGYN. I mean, she was an excellent OBGYN. She was really good, but it was just like that's where she was located.
Yeah.
And they treated Coley like he was like a teen dad. It was just like like a weird environment in and of itself.
It wasn't our hospital of choice. We'll say that.
It was a weird environment. Yeah. So anyways, I had to take Pitocin. The heart rate went down. I just got my epidural, and then before I knew it, I was just like, your arms are out with those like blood clot things, and you're just like, what the hell is happening? It's like so surreal, and it just happened like so quick. And then I remember I was in the recovery room just like by myself, like nobody was in there with me, so it was like.
They wouldn't let
traumatic. Yeah, like Coley wasn't with me. I was just in there by myself, like laying there.
Wait, I was there during the birth.
No, the recovery.
Recovery. No, I had to sleep next to the vending machines on the couch.
What?
Yeah, I was just by myself, like in there. So it was just like, what just happened? Like,
and you didn't even give birth during quarantine. So.
Yeah,
no, this was 2015.
2015.
Right.
Yeah, and like they didn't. Like how Coley mentioned, like with a C-section, they said you like in the birthing class, they were just like, you might have a C-section. Like that's all.
And that's it. That's all.
Yeah, that's really all they say. They don't really say like, oh, you're gonna have to stay in the hospital an additional 3 days. Right. You're gonna be throwing up this weird ass green ecto cooler stuff. You're gonna,
and you may have to have one again.
Yeah, you might have to have it again. And then when you have your second child, they literally have to sit you down and be like, just so you know, you could die because you have to like sign a paper like, oh shit, like I thought this was happy, but I guess not. Right. And then like really, and then on top of it, the doctors were just so dismissive of me, and I know they may have had like bad experiences with other patients. I can't speak on that, but it was just like not welcoming. My nurse was from, I think she was Chinese or something, and like nobody was like helping me. So it was like, I just don't think people realize how traumatic like birth really is. No. I know for a fact I had post-traumatic, like I had post-traumatic stress disorder. Like some people say, oh, you have postpartum depression or whatever, but I know I had like post-traumatic stress disorder. I discovered it after like years, like what the hell is wrong with me?
That's not unusual.
Yeah, and it was just such a traumatic like experience. Like I had like, I think Coley had to go to work like 4 days after I got home. And I had like just got a C-section. I just had a baby.
Well, with a C-section, the thing is like, it's a major abdominal surgery, right? Like up until that point, like it was always like the butt end of a joke. Like all the strippers had a C-section scar. It was always a butt end of a joke. That was my experience. I never thought much of it until they said, "Oh, well, she won't be able to lift anything or really move for the next 8 weeks."
Right,
I was like,
"Wait, what?"
She
had major surgery.
Yeah, that was again. It was never explained, and we did not miss a class. We were there early.
We weren't. I know for a fact we weren't prepared. Like it was like, even if they would have just said like, you like to the husbands, you should not go to work. Like you, like take even the like we would
did not,
and a lot of jobs don't. It would be cool if a job had like, some jobs now are more having like the maternity leave for the husbands, but his job didn't have that at the time, and it was just like.
And to me, I was like, oh, your mom's gonna be here. I can go back. We can keep this train going.
Yeah, but you were never explained. Like,
never explained that this could be something that you have to take, that's serious. And it's a major abdominal surgery. It's nothing like, walking into a room, you get the gown on, get the scrubs, and your wife is like cut open, open and not feeling a thing. And you're just like, oh, what? And everybody's just so casual. And this, again, this is 2015, our first childbirth. It's a hospital where there definitely wasn't a room for us, to go, or definitely no considerations for husbands, because we found out, or we were told, that Mercy had the highest rate of teenage deliveries there. So a lot of times, unfortunately, you had a lot of mothers who were there by themselves, or the son was there. So, me, I think I had stepped away for a little while, because at that point, a C-section was never a thing. And at this point, we had been at the hospital about 22 hours with the induction medicine, and they literally had a chair like this. That's all they had for the dads. And I was just like, well, I can't
sleep on that.
Yeah. I was like, and I was a 5-minute drive away from the hospital. I was like, well, it'll be okay if I go home and we see this happening. And then when I came back, you would have thought that I was a deadbeat dad who had disappeared from the child's life since, since birth to now. And I was like, no, I went home. I talked to this nurse. Now you're the new nurse that's on. Apparently notes hadn't been passed off, but it was a whole thing. But when you fast forward the experience, again, there was not a lot done. And Joy mentioned our nurse being Chinese. That just created a language barrier, because she was literally. I figured
that was why you.
She was the only. Your
caregiver,
and we could not understand the word.
I remember the lactation specialist. I think they came. I didn't even know they came.
We didn't know that was a lactation specialist. Somebody just was.
I was so out of it.
Yeah,
she didn't identify herself.
I was out of it.
I wasn't there.
Said, I don't know. I thought you said you were there. Like she had come and then you were asleep or something.
It was that there. That's what,
you were there. Right. But and then like he only, like, for his sake, he wasn't like, it was a snowstorm as well. It was like a straight up blizzard that day. And our other car was like the car that had to get me home or something like that was completely like
covered
in ice and snow. So he literally just left to clear that car.
Right.
And then it just happened, like, it was just so sudden. I had to have oxygen. Why did I have to have oxygen? I don't know.
Well, you were having surgery. And who knows? You don't know what was going on. That's a couple of things. One, I'm very surprised that they never talked to you guys about potentially having to have a C-section. And I say that only because in this day and age, hospitals are very quick to give women C-sections.
They are.
You make money. It's a surgery. So you make money from the surgery. It's a cash cow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I did.
It's a surgery, so they're going to be eager to give you a surgery. It's also a much easier process. So one of the things that I learned from my doula mentors is I coach my clients a lot on, here are your options and do what's best for you. I can't make that decision. I can just tell you from my experience and my knowledge, here's what makes sense. But I will say that another reason doctors like to get you in for a C-section is you can control when that woman is going to be in and out of the hospital. So I have heard doctors say, well, I'm going to be on vacation the week before or the week after your delivery date. So let's just schedule you so that you have me while I'm here. Or let's schedule you so I can get out of here. They may not say it, overtly. Some doctors might say it overtly, but some don't. And so they're trying to get you on a time schedule. So shocked that nobody talked to you about it because it's so prevalent and it's such it's a thing. It's a whole thing.
I think that was a part because, the tattoo I have here where it says Chance, that I got that tattoo probably in was that 2019 or 2017, Cole? You remember?
2019.
2019, but I didn't realize I had post-traumatic stress disorder until 2019. My son was 4. Mm-hmm. And I just kept wondering to myself, why did this happen to me? I kept thinking, why did this happen? Why did this happen?
I hate to say this to you because this is going to sound insensitive, but it's not just you. And that's unfortunate. And that's actually the reason I became a birth doula is because I'm a little too squeamish to be a midwife. So,
can you explain to us what a doula is?
Yeah, absolutely. So a birth doula supports laboring families. We are not the ones who deliver. A midwife can deliver, an obstetrician can deliver. I basically just provide you with support. So prior to your labor, I talk to my clients probably around week 28, 30. We get to know one another. We talk. You have access to me. If you have questions about decisions that you want to make for your labor, I can help you make those decisions about how you want to deliver. Delivery day, I'm there for you. I come usually when you're about 5 centimeters dilated, but sometimes clients are scared and they want you to come sooner. So I'm there basically at your call. We go over different mechanisms for pain. A lot of times, my strong recommendation is no meds. So no epidural, no Pitocin. Let the baby come how the baby wants to come. That's the healthiest way. You don't have to worry about heart rate slowing down. You don't have to worry about babies being really sleepy and drowsy and not wanting to do the work and you have to do a little bit more work. Plus the epidural doesn't let you know, when it's time to start pushing because you're not feeling much, but I digress. But it's not my decision either. I don't have children, and I'm not going to lie, even though I'm a birth doula and I know what an epidural can do, I can't say that I wouldn't make that choice also. Yeah. So it's your choice. It's your birth. It's however you want to do it. But I basically talk you through all of that. And if we're talking about pain relief, so that up until the point that you get the epidural, we know how to manage. And then at a certain point, as you know, an epidural doesn't even matter. You're going to feel it regardless. So we talk about how do you manage and push your way through all of that pain. How do we get you comfortable? How do we get the baby down naturally without Pitocin? So we work on I help with exercises for basically making it a more comfortable labor and a quick labor. Okay. But I wanted to do that. I wanted to become, that's the point of the story that I was telling, is the reason I wanted to become a doula is because of situations like this. A lot of women are not told what labor is going to be like, and mainly Black women.
Yes.
I've been in a labor where I've seen a woman treated poorly, like legit mistreated. and she was a Black woman. The nurse was white, and I saw her in the next room treat the next woman, the other person who she was supporting, with much more respect and much more dignity than she was showing my client. And at one point I had to tell my client, I'm here. It's just me and you. Like, we got this. This is the reason why I'm here. And that made her feel so much better because I know that these are the things that you're going to experience. And every woman, and namely Black women, deserve to have the labor that they want to have. And they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity.
Yeah, that sums it up, because I guess that would segue more into like Bella, because with my second child, I knew what to expect a little more.
Yeah.
I wanted to try to have her vaginally, but
you needed a VBAC.
Yeah, it didn't. It just didn't pan out that way. But I feel like that I still wasn't heard, even with I was like, okay, I'm in, because I'm not from Chicago, so I didn't know, like, it was hard for me to even find a doctor, find a hospital. Like, I just didn't have that support that I needed in that regard. But I would say, like with Bella, I knew what hospital. I knew Northwestern was like the hospital. Right. I knew like where to get what doctor. I was like, I'm going to the best one in the city. I'm going to the best hospital in the city. And even when I was there, like when I was pregnant, I started to feel like a lump in my C-section scar. And the lump, like in the first couple months, it continued to grow. But my OBGYN, she was pregnant too. So she like had to leave because she gave birth. So I was with like another doctor who was a white male. Yeah. And I kept telling him like, yo, this lump is like here, like it's a lump. And it's like, it was like getting bigger. And he was just like, oh, he just ignored me.
It was an ingrown hair. It was a prognosis that I had initially heard.
It was like, I don't, like, it literally moves. Like, I was like, when I'm touched, like, something's wrong. And he was just like, we'll deal with it after the delivery. We'll take whatever
you're in
it
pain
is.
now.
Yeah, it was like, he was just like, we'll deal with it after. And then my other doctor came back, and she was like, she was like, I had to get a CAT scan, MRI, all of this. And it turned out, so that's why I couldn't do that was a VPAC or whatever. I couldn't do it because they had the schedule to take out the whatever it was. They didn't know if it was cancerous or not.
It was a mass.
Yeah, it was like a mass. And then like basically they took so I had to schedule the C-section. So I at least knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming. So you're still disappointed because it's like people don't treat C-sections like a natural birth. They make you feel like, oh, I had a natural birth because it was vaginal. And you had a C-section. It's like we're not the same. And so that you kind of want to be in that club almost.
Yeah, and I don't understand that mommy shaming stuff.
Yeah, either. It's like, dude.
We both had babies.
Yeah, and in the scheme of it, I wish more movies. Because if you think everything is romanticized, people use what they see. And if you watch most movies, TV shows, you ain't seeing somebody having a C-section.
No, it's always a funny thing about the guy holding the camera, passing out, and
it's like that's not what the shit is like.
It's comedic.
Yeah, it's like, or you see like what's her name, Kourtney Kardashian, like pulling her own kid out of herself, like, and then it's like, what the hell? But I mean, like,
is that what happened? I have. No
it's like the weirdest. Have you seen that video? Well, you probably haven't, but you like, anyways. But it's never, you really don't hear about like C-sections, you don't see it. And so it's just like a lot like, okay, well, but this time I was like, here we go. But then it was it was like due to endometriosis, the growth. Yeah. And then
it was an endometrioma?
Yeah, I think or it was like endometrial something. I remember they used the word endometrial.
Yeah, well, it couldn't have been an endometrioma, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the size of a baseball. So it started off, it was the size of like a pencil eraser, right?
Wait a second. Was it a cyst?
They didn't say it was. They didn't. I don't know.
That's when I was diagnosed with endo. I had to have a laparoscopy, and when I had the surgery, it was real. They didn't know it was endo. I basically kept rupturing cysts on my ovaries, and at one point, because they were back to back, I had to have a laparoscopy so that they could evacuate my uterus because there was so much fluid. And that's when they found an endometrioma, and the lesion that comes from endometriosis. They biopsied, and biopsied it, and that's what that was. So that might be, I mean, I'm not diagnosing you, but it may have been something like that.
That sounds, I mean, it probably was. It was just, it happened so like, first I'm a mom because I still had chance.
Right.
I'm pregnant with the second child. I'm trying to like get through that. Then this happens. So a little bit, I don't want to say it's a fog, but a little bit it kind of is. I just remember I had to like go to a cancer like doctor prior, and I was like pregnant, like, oh shit, like, do I have cancer?
Right.
And I remember like I had to say it to Coley, and like probably like 2 weeks later, like Bella was here and they had to test the growth to see if it was like cancerous. So now you're waiting like, but you have a new baby. And then you're just like,
that's a lot.
Yeah. And it is in the same hand, you're being like, oh wow, like, if this doctor wouldn't, if my other doctor wouldn't have came back,
you never.
I don't know what would have happened to me.
Right, and like, you're really fortunate to have a good doctor in general, because the stories I hear, some people probably wouldn't have even gotten that.
Yeah, because it really started me like on a campaign. Any like mom I see who's pregnant, I'll just like be like, I know you don't know me, but let me tell you about C-section. Like anybody I see,
the good news?
Like, because it's so traumatic, and it's just like you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And it's just like if someone can just like give you this information, you can be prepared. Pack extra clothes so you're not in that hospital gown because you only pack 2 outfits. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they tell you, to pack 2 outfits. Like, if you have an emergency C-section, you might be there for a week.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, like, stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little ranting a little bit, but I just feel like, you know.
Reasonably
like,
so.
Yeah, like, with the second child, it was unexpected. I thought, okay, this time we gonna just be smooth. And then that came up. Right. And then like after I had the kids, I've had a lot of issues like with my periods. Well, I know Coley, but like I mean, it's just true. Like
you also have endo, so that probably contributed to it. I mean, that's not a guarantee. I didn't know I had endometriosis till I ruptured the cyst. I had no awareness or anything, and my cycle is very normal. So you just don't know, and you don't know how pregnancy impacted the endometriosis, which then could have impacted your period. And also after you have a child, that can impact things as you age. Like, there's so many factors. There are really a lot of factors.
Yeah, that's really how it feels. I would love for you to talk about like the immune component. Like, I've never heard that it was how it's connected to your immune system.
That's not a guarantee. So that's the problem is that, well, the real problem is that there's so little research about women's gynecological health in general. There is not a lot of information about why women get persistent cysts, why women have fibroids, why women have polycystic ovarian syndrome, etc. The research that we have is so old. It's many, many years old. And also, a lot of the information that we have about hormones and how hormones function is based on studies that were done among white men. So we really don't have a lot of information. A lot of the stuff that we do know is speculation and just what people have been able to gather.
Okay.
So when I say that it's an immune function disorder, that may not even be true. There have just been indicators that could be a contributing factor. Hormonal imbalance is seemingly in one of the major factors in all of these reproductive conditions. So fibroids, PCOS, ovarian cysts, endometriosis, dysmenorrhea, menorrhagia, all of the things. Those are nice ways of saying cramps and heavy cycles.
Yeah.
But all of these things are said to be hormonal imbalance, but we don't know that as a fact. So I can't say without a doubt that immune system function is a part of endometriosis, because we just don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
So how does one, you said earlier you have not had kids. Joy just had 2, but how does one figure out what are the symptoms of endometriosis, as well as like how does a woman find out? Because again, it shifted the course kind of our family and what we expected.
And it still like impacts us today.
Yeah.
Like
it has
literally,
to. It is a condition. So I do a lot of work with women with endo, and I work with this organization called Endo Black. I was actually supposed to be in DC this weekend to participate in an event, and I didn't go. But long story short, in the work that I do with them, or in partnering with them and talking to them, some of the stories that I hear is that it took people years and years and years. Like some women had heavy cycles and just horrible periods from the moment they got their period and never got a diagnosis, or didn't get a diagnosis until they were like 40 or 35, possibly even 28. So you're sitting from, let's say, 10, 11, 12 years old until you're almost 30. You have no idea why your period's so bad.
Yeah.
So there are some indicators, but oftentimes there aren't. So you may just have a really heavy cycle. One thing I will say, and I repeat this all the time, a heavy period or a bad period is not normal. Your period should never be bad. Like minimal cramps, little discomfort, that's normal. But if you are out for the count for days, which I hear a lot of women say, or they're just in horrible pain and have to keep popping meds, there's likely something else going on. So that could be any of the number of conditions that I just talked about. It could be because they all kind of manifest themselves similarly. Fibroids, I've had friends who have had cycles that have gone on for days and days and days, and they're hemorrhaging and near death, and you don't think that fibroids are that bad, but they actually end up being, it's a condition that can kill you if it gets to an extreme point. Endometriosis can kill you. People can have what's called thoracic endometriosis, and that's where endometrial like tissue will grow, not just in places in your uterus like your fallopian tubes or your ovaries, but it can grow on your lungs, it can grow on your heart, it can grow in other places, right?
It grew on my C-section scar.
Right,
so,
and that's even more normal, but people with thoracic are in constant pain and their whole bodies ache, and they can die from that. A woman recently, last year, hadn't been I think she may have just gotten diagnosed with endometriosis and ended up with a huge cyst. The doctors sent her home, told her that it would resolve itself. She ended up dying because the cyst got so large and it ruptured, and it killed her.
Is there a test a doctor can run to identify?
The only true way to know that you have endometriosis is through surgery.
It's to remove.
It's to go in through a laparoscopy or something similar and actually look at the uterus to see if they can find endometriomas or if they can find those lesions that I talked about. And biopsy them. That's the most official way to find out. So Joy was having her C-section and they found it. She's clearly has it. I had surgery. That's how they found it. Some people, doctors are just speculating like, it sounds like it could be endometriosis, but it might not be. And so you may not be getting the right treatment. And even with the treatments that they offer you, those might not be helpful because they can cause a series of other problems. Like Lupron is one of the things that people who have really bad endo symptoms use. And I've heard women say that they had hair loss.
What's Lupron?
It's a medication.
Okay.
It's a medication for endometriosis to basically prevent some of the flare-ups. One of the most common recommendations is like the recommendation for anything gynecological is get on birth control.
Yeah, that one sucks so hard.
Exactly.
Like,
I did it for
why?
5 months and was like, that's when I decided I got to go holistic because this isn't right for me.
Yeah.
But the reason they prescribe that is because, again, not a lot of research. And the one thing that they know is when you ovulate, you are developing a cyst on your ovary. And so that ovary in normal situations dissolves on its own or it busts and you don't even notice it because it's so small. You're basically, the birth control is trying to prevent ovulation so that you can prevent the cyst from occurring. And so that is their resolution for everything from acne to a heavy cycle to whatever your condition is, they're going to recommend birth control. But it's also been said, and this isn't proven, but I believe that there's a lot of truth to this, that the artificial hormones can lead to hormonal imbalance or a condition called estrogen dominance, which many believe is the cause of fibroids, endo, et cetera, et cetera.
Just like a vicious cycle almost.
Basically, exactly. You're trying to resolve one thing and you cause more problems.
Yeah, and Asha too, can you like explain? Because like for me, a heavy period isn't necessarily the cramping, but a heavy period for me was like, you're going through a lot of like pads, like you might not be cramping and stuff, but it's like you're bleeding like a lot. Like I even had an incident, like I'm anemic. I fainted one time during my period. It was like, blood. Yeah, it was like bad, and that was like last October. So it's just like, oh, I thought this would like stop after I had kids, but it's like not. So I think people just don't realize, like, when you have a kid, like having it before you have a kid, you could go through stuff. After, you still could go through stuff, and not even having a kid, people are going through stuff. And I remember like seeing an article about Black women. Apparently, like, well, Black women, we have the highest mortality rate. I know, like, Cole, I really wanted a third child, but pretty much Coley had to like tell me, like, if we, like, you could die.
You want to go through this again?
Yeah, like, I can't lose you. Like, you might literally die. Like, you just can't do it. It took me a long time to, like, accept.
And that's
but it's
devastating.
Like, yeah, it's like, this isn't what I expected, chose for myself. You know, you have a vision for yourself. You just, it's like, oh, this is like 100% out of my control. You know,
I just had this conversation. I'm doing a YouTube series about women and the challenges of women who have conditions like this, and basically how their lives have manifested since their diagnosis. And so this sounds so familiar to me. And one of the things I want to say too is another solution that you are given for endometriosis is they say, oh, get pregnant.
Oh, wow.
They tell women that, that's what I was told. The only way that you'll be able to resolve endometriosis is if you get pregnant. And obviously that's not true. Like you are a testament to that not being true. But that's the only time that they say that they can guarantee you won't have a flare, because you're not ovulating.
Oh.
So either control the birth or go through birth.
Basically.
Those are two
and I'm
solutions.
like, come on. You're telling me I have to have a baby in order to like, that's the solution? And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'm not saying that like I'm against having a baby, but you can't tell me that I have no control over my body, and the only thing that's going to control it is a decision that I haven't made for myself, that I don't even know if I want to do this right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so random.
Well, Asha, let me ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
Are your services, not your products, but obviously your services, are those covered by most insurances, or people come out of pocket?
People come out of pocket. Some hospitals are starting to incorporate Reiki.
Okay.
I was approached by a nurse recently from Northwestern. They were doing a nurses week, and they wanted Reiki practitioners to come in and provide that service, because the woman who was facilitating all of this, her goal was to get hospitals to understand that it's not just medicine that can help to heal people. And she wanted them to get a chance to, practice and try all of these different modalities, namely Reiki, in order to try to push it through the hospital. Some hospitals like Northwestern and I believe University of Chicago have their holistic arms, and they may offer Reiki, and that can be given through insurance, or it can be provided through insurance. But other than that, no, unfortunately, no. Birth doula, not yet, but there are people working on that.
Are within the context of going through the experience that Joy did and being by her side, is it affordable within the context of all that's going on, like the doula services?
It depends. Okay. It really depends. Like if you're an independent doula like I am, you set your own prices.
Okay.
Mine is a sliding scale, so it just depends.
Gotcha.
I've given free service before.
Gotcha.
So it's not always, $2,000, but sometimes if a person can't, in my opinion, everybody should have access to this. So that's the way I've conducted my business even before I became a birth doula, even with Reiki. In our community, PTSD, anxiety, et cetera, hypertension are all major things among Black people. And so my goal has always been introducing all of these things to my community so that they know medication is not the only route that you can go. suffering in silence isn't the only way that you can go. There are holistic things that can be done. And so I've always offered a lower cost or offered product for free or services for free for people who can't afford it. So yeah, with me, I'll speak for myself, it is affordable.
Gotcha. It seems like the value is there. We would, going back in time, we would definitely love these services because we didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
But somebody does, you know.
And a doctor's not going to recommend a doula necessarily.
1,000% they're not. They're not because it's not necessarily in their best interest. Your products, are they used on an ongoing basis or only when something ails you?
It depends. That's also one of those things that it depends on. It depends on your body. So I use my products constantly.
Okay.
The same one that Joy uses, the Amber Blend, which is for women with endometriosis. I drink the tea when I'm unable to steam. I try to steam every week. There are, of course, some exceptions of when you can't steam, but when I can't steam, I drink the tea. And I'm pretty consistent with it because I found out the hard way. I got a little arrogant and I said, oh, you're healed. You don't have to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, after 3 years, I had a ruptured cyst, and I said, oh, okay, my bad. Okay. So I have to use it just because I have a chronic illness. If you have fibroids, I say you don't have to use it consistently.
Okay.
I would probably use it until your fibroids begin to shrink, and then a little while after they have shrunk. And especially if you're going to maintain a special diet with every condition, it's my belief that you should change your diet. It's not just the herbs that's going to do it. You have to change your diet. You have to get more exercise. You got to move your body. There are lifestyle changes that you have to make. But I do think in some cases, yes, you use it consistently. Other times, just when it hits you. So like the Moon Blend, for example, it's for cramps. You don't have to use that every day. You can use it in replace of a Tylenol or an Advil.
Well, unfortunately, we are coming up on time. I'm not gonna lie. I was happy to have you on the show. Did not expect all of these jewels to be dropped in these last 45 minutes. So, Asha, I have to say thank you so much. I think to our listeners who get this, please listen, please pass, please share this episode. You're gonna help a life. You'll probably save a life. There's just a lot that we covered today. So, Asha, as you know, as we discussed, we like to end every show with a little segment called Things We Wish We Would Have Known. So, I like to go around the table. We're not going to put you on the spot and make you go first unless you have something. But I will put Joy on the spot and let her go first.
Okay. I think, something that I wish I would have known. It sounds redundant what we've already said, but I do wish I would have known that Black women get subpar care. I thought, not me. I'm joyful. I am friendly. Why would they not care, have regard or concern? You just think it's not, I've heard of it, but it wouldn't happen to me. But really at the time I didn't know. I just didn't know about it. So I think something I wish I would have known was, one, to research. We have the internet, research sites. If you research, they say, I think it's 80%. It's a very high percentage of Black women have gynecological, sorry, sorry, you know what I'm saying.
Right.
They have it fibroids, cysts. It's a very high percentage in comparison to other races. These are things I didn't know coming up when I was pregnant, when I had my period. My mom didn't talk to me about periods. She just was like, oh, you're a woman now, and let's go get an outfit. And and for some reason, I couldn't use tampons. This is literally, this is what I'm working with here, people. I know I went to college and all this, but, I feel I wish I would have known more about, what other Black women are going through. And if you are a Black woman, going through things, you're not alone. I feel a lot of people just don't realize it. You are not alone. People have had a lot of Black women have had C-sections. A lot of Black women have issues with their periods. A lot of Black women have fibroids. You're not alone. So if you could you're Indo-Black, find a network, find someone to talk to. I really couldn't talk to my mom because she's well, I ain't have no C-section. Literally, this is her response. And she didn't. So I'm not judging my mom, but it's she kind of wasn't.
She couldn't help you.
She didn't know what to do. Like,
Right.
she literally didn't know what to do. So, like, just find your network, do the research, ask questions, get a second opinion. You know your body. You have that innate feeling like something ain't right. It's okay. Like, get a second opinion. I think that's it. Those are the things I wish I would have known.
Yeah, and just drafting off of you, things I wish I would have known, just on the same subject. It doesn't matter really, like, who you are, your access, because I think not too long after we had Bella, I think that's when Serena Williams had her baby, and she dealt with the same shit. This is Serena Williams,
rich.
like a multimillionaire. She married the founder of Reddit, and she was still dealing with the same misdiagnosis, substandard treatment. Serena fucking Williams. So, like, the disparity is there. It's real. Like, just get that second opinion. If it's not right, like, spend the money. It'll be worth it in the long run, whatever needs to be done, because they're trying to get you in and out and get as much money as they can out of your childbirth, but with the least amount of incidents. So none of us are immune. None of y'all are immune. So Serena Williams.
Yeah. So I wish I would have known. I'll stay on theme. I wish I would have known to pay closer attention to what was going on with me gynecologically. I did have a great doctor at the time. He was a white male. I've been very fortunate to have really great gynecologists. I have not had a bad experience in my life. My mom had fibroids, and I started cramping a little, like, early, probably in my 20s, maybe early 30s. And so I asked to be tested to see if I had fibroids. And he was like, absolutely, without a doubt, we'll definitely look. And I didn't have anything. But I feel like there could have been key signals for me to have known what was going on. And I wish I would have known to ask for a battery of exams to see what was going on with me gynecologically and even with my fertility a lot younger. And that's, with the caveat, I don't have any fertility challenges, but I know that there are a lot of women who don't even realize I can't have children, and I waited all this time and I had no idea. If I would have known, I would have probably just asked for a battery of exams just to check on where my gynecological health is, because nobody's going to do that for you. A doctor's not going to recommend it. They never do. You don't find out what's up with your body until you get into the process. And so if I'd known, I would probably look into that sooner.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're at time. That's our episode. Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast. We out.
Thanks.